I'm Brandon Rowe in Mississauga, outside of what was once considered the second home for a local athlete. An athlete that had to go through what many say was a normal experience when playing hockey in Canada.
Oh, calling him get the because he was a good hockey player. I'll never forget it in my lifetime.
That was the experience for a teen playing hockey while black in the 70s.
Brought me to tears to watch my father's pain, because my father's a very strong, proud man.
The heart-wrenching video at the beginning of this story is of Paul Smithers' father, Don, remembering the hardships his son had to go through playing the game he loved.
I'm sixth-generation Canadian, and that's what we do. Probably at about 5 or 6 years old, my mom would take me to the hockey rink on a cold morning and dressed in my equipment, and that's how it began.
Smithers was on an island, growing up as an athlete, being the only black player on his teams, leading him to be the target of consistent racial taunts, especially being called the N-word.
Only a few years ago did I really fully understand or be able to articulate what it feels like to be called the N-word. You just want to hide under a table. It disables you. It paralyzes you.
It wasn't a one-off. It was years of being verbally violated. However, it was in 1973 while playing in a Mississauga house league when Smithers got the worst of it, mostly coming from one player, Barry Cobby, Smithers' rival on the ice. On February 18, 1973 at Kawartha Park Arena, Smithers said he finally had enough, leading to a life-changing confrontation after witnesses said Cobby was heard hurling the N-word and other racial insults at Smithers.
I remember like it was yesterday me saying to him, either you apologize or I'm going to kick the you-know-what out of you. Mm-hmm. So he came down the stairs with his friends, and they were surrounding him. I went after him. I think I tried to throw a punch. 4 of his friends grabbed me, and then once his friends got hold of me, he came back, he came toward me, and I kicked out at him. Now, to this day, I don't know whether the kick landed or not, whether it was the anticipation of being kicked. I was the direct cause of him dying.
Smithers was put on trial, a trial that saw activists from the United States travel over to Canada for what they called legalized lynching. A Mississauga coroner testified that Cobby's vomit could have been triggered by the anticipation of the kick, but still, Smithers was convicted by a 12-member all-white jury for manslaughter and sentenced to 6 months at the Brampton Adult Learning Center.
Your whole world just changes. No more rose-colored glasses, no more growing up as a kid. This is real stuff. Only when I had children of my own did I fully understand the magnitude or the gravity of the situation. I couldn't imagine what his family must have felt.
This story shows the power and consequences a single word can carry and what happens when a broken system left a boy to fend for himself. Paul Smithers doesn't want to be considered as a victim, but as a baseline of where racism was in the 70s compared to where it is today in 2020.
Wayne Simmons was on the ice for a shootout in London when a fan threw a banana peel on the ice.
There's Devontae Smith-Pelly in the penalty box. You see him get into it with some fans. That's because they allegedly made racially insensitive remarks towards Smith-Pelly.
Calgary's head coach has now been called into question after Bill Peters was accused by a former player for making racist remarks.
Racism is real and happening in Canada, but in the sports world as of late, pro hockey has come under the microscope. This on the heels of professional hockey player Akeem Alou calling out the racism he's faced on the ice.
How did racism present itself in your hockey career?
Alou recently spoke to City TV on the panel Ending Racism, What Will It Take?, mirroring a lot of the experiences that Smithers went through decades ago.
And just always just being told that you're different.
In his prime years, the years he was coming up, the years that he should have been taken seriously as an NHL prospect, he was going through all the experiences that he's detailed over the last few months that really derailed his career.
Has the experience for a black hockey player improved? Just recently, a 16-year-old told the Sports Network he was called the N-word in more than half of the games that he played with the Greater Toronto Hockey League in 2019. They told City News they were only made aware after the player went to the media in late May.
Back in '73, when everything happened to me, the referees heard it. But I don't think they fully understood, just how demeaning or degrading that was. How is it possible in 2020 that this stuff is still allowed to happen?
It took that public incident for the GTHL to announce a plan to fight racism. Even the NHL has recently committed to improving the experience for racialized players, but critics wonder why it wasn't done years ago, as these problems aren't new. It begs the question,
are they listening to us right now because they're motivated, or are they listening to us right now because they really want to ingrain good habits? Because 6 months from now, a year from now, like, this fervor, this motivation will have worn off, right? And what you have after that are habits. What are your habits in terms of how you treat black people, in terms of how you treat indigenous people and other marginalized people?
Smithers is optimistic, seeing people from all sides are now listening.
This is the first time in 50 years I've felt as encouraged as I do today.
Encouragement can lead to hope, hope to change, and change to real progress. But only if we can respect each other on the ice, and more importantly, off it. With City News photojournalist Ken Townsend, I'm Brandon Rowe for City News.